A very good morning to you and welcome to the show. This is The Key Points with me, Abna Tebi. It is the 23rd day of January 2021. And yes, another weekend is upon us and we're back here to look at issues of national importance. As usual, we're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7 and online at 3news.com. Also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. This show runs from now till 9:50, where conversations will be brought to a close. And the first part of the show this morning, we shall be focusing on the 2020 election petition and matters arising. So, caught between fidelity to the requirement of the Supreme Court's amended rules on presidential election petitions to determine presidential elections within 42 days, and the petitioners' demand that justice should not be sacrificed for expedition, the Supreme Court gave a clear signal this week that it would stick to the rules. The Supreme Court, at its last sitting this week on the 20th of January 2021, on the presidential election petition, did not only set down the issues for determination in the petition by the court, but gave clear timelines for the parties to file all relevant documents or processes, including witness statements together with exhibits, if any, submissions on preliminary legal objections, and the response to the submissions on the preliminary legal objections. And the Supreme Court then adjourned proceedings to Tuesday, the 26th of January 2021, for the hearing of the petition. On the show this morning, we shall be looking at the 2020 election petition, presidential election petition, and matters arising from the Supreme Court this week. You do know that a lot of issues have come from that quarters, but obviously we will not go into the merits or demerits of the petition as filed before the court. The second part of the show this morning, we shall be focusing attention on COVID-19. And indeed, the disease continues to wreak havoc on the world, and in Ghana, we have seen a horrifying surge in confirmed cases and deaths. The President, in his 22nd address to the nation on measures being taken by the states in respect of COVID-19, put out some worrying statistics. And I'll just run through a few. That active cases moved from 900 to 1,924 as of Sunday, the 17th of January 2021. And as of Friday, 22nd January 2021, just yesterday, active cases recorded were 2,413. On the average, we are recording 200 cases daily. Our treatment centers have gone from 0 patients to full capacity. Severe cases have moved from 18 last week to 120. No critical cases recorded some 2 weeks ago, but as of Sunday, 17 January 2021, when the President was given his 22nd address, there were 33 critical cases in treatment facilities. Deaths recorded as of 17 January 2021 were 352, and as of yesterday, Friday, 22nd January, deaths had increased to 361. 13 out of the 16 regions have recorded active cases. Now, those severely ill are relatively youthful persons without underlying health issues. So indeed, the situation is dire and we need to pay critical attention to this. And so on the show this morning, we're going to dedicate quite a substantial part of the hours we have to this all-important issue. These are the matters we've tabled for conversation this morning. As usual, it will be interesting, thought-provoking and stimulating, and we do encourage you to stay with us. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, I will introduce the panelists for the first part of the morning's conversation. This is The Key Point. Stick with us. We will be right back.
germs. Learn Lifebuoy's hand washing habits. Wash hands with soap or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Together, let's help fight the spread of germs in Africa.
This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Make you start off the year by stepping up with DSTV.
Things are about to get cray.
Whoa, okay.
And that's important because
DSTV, they come give you more of the entertainment you and your family they like. So fasten your seatbelt. As DSTV take you go higher with more epic live soccer, exciting local drama, and best kids show.
That's a lot.
My people, all you for do be say, starting from 14th January to 31st March, upgrade your current DSTV package to the next one, and DSTV will bump you up to the one above that at no extra cost. It be that simple.
What?
Come on.
Oh, exciting.
okay.
For example, let's say you have family. All you have to do is pay for compact, and DSTV will give you compact plus at no extra cost.
This is a lot.
Yeah.
Follow us with the hashtag DSTV Step Up for more, or call us on 0302 740 540. Terms and conditions apply.
Pepsodent introduces charcoal and lemon essence. The unique combination of natural essences whitens teeth naturally for you and family because every smile matters.
Another season of TV3 Talented Kids is here. Season 11 was fun. Season 12 will be super exciting. Are you ready? If you're 14 years or younger and can sing, dance, play an instrument, draw, act, DJ, or have any TV-friendly talent, then it's time to audition for Season 12 of Talented Kids. Audition dates and information are as follows. 21st to 22nd January, Kumasi inside Akuma FL. 24th to 25th January, Accra inside TV3 at Desawe Kanda. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. Got the talent? Come flaunt it for the chance to be part of Season 12 of Talented Kids. Also, if you know any child star you think should be on the show, send a video of him or her displaying his or her talent to us via WhatsApp on 054-244-8297 and we will put them on. Talented Kids, free to play. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. This Sunday on Date Rush.
She said I shouldn't tell you that the competition is tight, so she is scared to lose the battle.
I wish I could get a chair to sit, because like I can't stand.
Won't mean Gina.
I don't want the ladies to be rushing the way he dance mean to me. I can't, yeah. The guy like cute.
I'm actually looking forward to have fun.
Wait. Your accent last week wasn't like this one.
The all-new season of Date Rush shows this Sunday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it. The all-new season of Date Rush is proudly brought to you by Rush Energy Drink, Carnival Liqueur, Ernest Ointment, Heaven Insecticide Spray and Coil, and Napa Foods, Everpure Purified Drinking Water, Note Cosmetics, Duffy's Ohima Feminine Mixture, Papa's Pizza.
Hey, Ghana, our next episode of Family Feud is going viral for sure. See it first right here on TV3. What does she do? She's a singer, actor?
She's a female.
She's a female, I know that.
She's a female.
Pass a play. How long was her walk from the podium?
Family Feud shows this Saturday at 8 p.m. and repeat on Thursdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Family Feud is brought to you by Malta Guinness. Enjoy a world of good.
Vodafone.
treatment of cancer can be very expensive, but there is great hope for Ghanaian teachers.
So, cancer is a deadly disease. It's a deadly disease because the treatment involves a lot of money. And so, if you don't have the wherewithal to undergo the treatment, you will die. But we, as teachers, we know that there is a remedy for us.
You bring along your payslip, and then you also bring along your NAT identity card. And once that is established, you are given the treatment free of charge.
Made possible by the collaboration between the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and the Sweden Ghana Medical Center, SGMC.
Some of our members still not aware that there is a facility like this here.
My wife also talked to her association, which is the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, and we were attended to promptly.
If you're a Ghanaian teacher and a member of NAT, you enjoy absolutely free treatment of cancer.
If you are a member, your spouse stands to benefit if she happens to suffer the disease. Your daughter, your son also stands to benefit if she also happens to contract the disease.
NAT Hour, a documentary of hope for the Ghanaian teacher, shows Wednesdays at 5:45 p.m. and Sundays at 1:30 p.m. only on TV3.
A young cop and his fiancée realizing their lifelong dream together. The daughter of a tycoon, about to launch her dream career, celebrates her birthday with her father. But then, the unexpected happens. The tycoon and the cop's fiancé, framed as lovers. A strange twist of fate brings two opposite worlds together. A series of mysteries will lead them on a road to unravel a web of lies. A breathtaking story of deception, treason, and dark family secrets. Missing diamonds are the clue to surprising revelations. And romance will help them survive. Black Money Love.
Black Money Love premieres Monday 25th January at 8 p.m. and shows Monday to Thursday at 8 p.m. only on TV3.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to The Key Points. We're live on TV3, also live on 3FM 92.7. Online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So we'll be looking at the election petition, the 2020 presidential election petition, in the first part of the show this morning. And we're looking at matters arising from the Supreme Court this week. So the first thing happening in the Supreme Court this week was on the 19th of January 2021, where the petitioners' application to serve interrogatories on the first respondent was dismissed by the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, in its ruling, indicated that the critical issue of relevancy had not been established or demonstrated by the applicant, and so the application could not be granted. Subsequent to that, a number of issues came up, and we'll be looking at those. But before that, let's take a listen to a story which puts the spotlight on the dismissal of the petitioner's application for leave to serve interrogatories and the reactions following that.
And therefore, you will not apply Order 22 of CR 47 of 2004 in these circumstances. We accordingly refuse to grant the application, and same is accordingly dismissed.
The Apex Court gave its ruling after the petitioner's lead counsel, Chacho Chikata, sought to include some 12 questions for the chair of the Electoral Commission to answer. These included the manner in which the results of the 2020 presidential election were transmitted and whether the National Communications Authority was involved in the transmission of the results. Chacho Chikata stressed on the relevance of the questions, asking the court to grant the application.
He
said that everything is in the law, and those are the steps that the EC is supposed to follow. We know that. We know what is in the law. But the interrogatories are designed to elicit what actually took place in order for your lordships to determine whether they were in accordance with the law or not. So you can't just keep telling us that everything is there in the law, everything is there in the law.
Legal counsel for the Electoral Commission, Justin Amenuvo, argued the questions the petitioner sought answers for are not relevant to the matter yet to be determined.
My lords, we said in our answer that indeed the petitioner had signed 13 of those. We have also stated in our answer that where a party fails or refuses to sign on any of the forms at this stage of the process goes on.
Though the questions were not directed at the second respondent, lead counsel for the side, Akoto Ampao, sought the permission of the court to argue based on a point of law.
It is not therefore necessarily a proper question to put in interrogatories. We have decided that the interrogatory 3 also ought to be disallowed as being a fishing interrogatory. And my lords, it is our submission that these interrogatories are indeed fishing interrogatories and should be disallowed.
The interrogatories that were subsequently dismissed were formally set by the legal team of the petitioner, John Dramani Mahama, to be answered by the Electoral Commission to determine in advance what facts will be presented for trial of the case.
And my lord, that
Dr. Dominic Ayeni did not spare any effort to communicate their disappointment with a unanimous ruling.
We're very shocked that the court did two things. First of all, by sidestepping its own decision in the 2013 election petition, one, by a 9-member panel. Okay, that decision was cited by learned counsel for the petitioner, Mr. Chachu Chikata, to the court. And then secondly, by implying that there has been kind of an implicit amendment of CI 47 that we think is very I don't want to use strong language, but I think that it is legally untenable.
According to him, the court sidestepped the basic issues brought before it.
We think that the issues were very relevant because they go to the integrity of the pleadings that were filed, that is a petition as well as the respective answers. And in fact, if you were listening, counsel for the first respondent did admit that our interrogatories were relevant because he said that those interrogatories raised issues that had been answered by their answer as well as the answer of the second respondent. And so for us, relevance was key to the application that we brought.
A member of the counsel for the second respondent, Frank Davis, justified why his side raised preliminary objection to the petition.
This tells you that the petitioner has a long way to go insofar as this petition is concerned. There are ground rules which have been set for this petition, and the Supreme Court is not going to allow for unnecessary and interminable delays in the hearing of this petition. We are gladdened by the fact that the opposition we mounted was exactly what was rendered by the Supreme Court in its ruling.
He wondered why the petitioners were not ready to continue with the case, resulting in an adjournment.
We heard counsel for lawyer for a petitioner talking about time to have certified true copy of the ruling. Well, that is his right, but that would not delay the trial. The courts have indicated quite clearly that tomorrow morning we are here for the pre-trial. So tomorrow morning at 9:30 a.m. we will be here. Indeed, just to let you know that we were ready and prepared with our issues, because the last time the court directed that it was going to be a pre-trial. Every lawyer knows that when the case is adjourned for pre-trial or case management, you have to prepare your issues. And if you bring an application to court, you either know that the application will be granted or dismissed. So there is no need to wait for that to happen. Much more so when you filed your application just about 2:40 p.m. yesterday. What did you expect?
But Dr. Dominic Ayene disagrees.
We are committed to an expeditious trial. In fact, our application, on the contrary, was the one that was designed to lead to an expeditious trial. And we are very ready for this trial. They should not, they thought this was going to be a walk in the park. And what they saw today is just a tip of the iceberg.
Right, so those were scenes from the Supreme Court earlier on in the week on Tuesday, the 19th of January, 2021. In the studio with me, we have Faisal Ibrahim Sise. He is a lawyer and a member of the NPP National Communications team. You're welcome.
Thank you, Maria.
Let me also indicate that we are expecting Mr. Sami Jemfi, the communications officer, the national communications officer of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, to join us for this conversation. We will nonetheless proceed in his absence. When he comes in, we will do the needful and announce his presence accordingly. So, a number of things happening in the Supreme Court. But by way of education, I'm sure lots of people are wondering what interrogatories are. What at all is this interrogatories we're talking about and all of that? So basically, talking about the fact that when parties in a dispute in courts have each, filed their respective positions in respect of their cases in court, a party may want to have a certain set of questions answered by another party in the suit. But these questions should be borne out of the case as filed by that particular party, or the parties in the suit, as filed in court. And that's why the issue of relevance comes in. And this, the serving or the filing of these questions are not as of right. It's for the court to decide whether or not you can be given leave or permission to file these set of questions so that they can subsequently be served on the party from whom you want those questions, or a party wants those questions answered. Ultimately, the whole point is to help with the determination of the matter or issues before the court for determination. So indeed, in a very simple way, that is how we can explain interrogatories in the scheme of things. But lawyers here as well, he can throw some more light on the issues, and then let's hear your perspective as well on what happened, and the responses or reaction that have subsequently come.
Okay, I'll start first by saying good morning to you and good morning to our viewers. I must commend you for the brilliant definition of what interrogatories are. And I think you've made the work quite easy. And I'm hoping that viewers took a keen interest and listened clearly to the things you said. Because basically, that is what it is. I think there may be some misapprehension or misunderstanding from the side of the former flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress when it comes to interrogatories. I'm not sure whether the misunderstanding is coming from the advice he's getting from his counsel, or I can't really tell, because it's very clear that interrogatories are nothing more than applications or requests or pleas a party will make of a court. And the court is seized with the power to look at the questions you are asking based on the pleadings you filed. In this case, based on the petition that you filed in court. The court will have to assess and see if indeed the questions that you are asking has some relevance to the issues or the concerns or the grievances which you brought to the court. So it's important to establish that if you have not raised an issue about transmission of results in your petition, or the transmission of results has never been your case or your concern, or if you've not raised an issue or the grounds for which you come to the Supreme Court, the results that were transmitted from one point to the other, it begs the question why you will at this point in time be asking questions about transmission. And according to the words of lead counsel for the former flag bearer of NDC, Chachu Chikata, he says the question is relevant because they want to test the authenticity of the figures that were transmitted to the EC boss, which she used in her declaration.
Right, but let me throw this caveat in as well, that obviously there's an application for review of the decision refusing the application for leave to serve interrogatories, and so we wouldn't want to make any prejudicial comments because that is before the court for determination.
Right. So I take a cue, and I actually do not seek to prejudge the review application before the court. I'm just re-echoing the position of the court.
Right.
So as we speak, the ruling, as the substitute ruling,
dated the 19th of January.
Dated the 19th of January is that the interrogatories being sought by the former flag bearer is not relevant, and the court made that very clear. And I've read the process they filed for review, and I found it very interesting that there was a deliberate attempt, or there is a deliberate attempt, not to even comment on the relevance, which was one of the main reasons why the Supreme Court ruled. There seemed to be an over-reliance on the fact that the court quoted or referenced CI 99 in making its ruling. But I think the heart of the matter, which the court based on to make its ruling, was the relevance, which the court said in plain language that the applicant has not established the relevance of the questions that they are asking. Second to it is where they bring in the fact that the process or the petition must be heard in an expeditious manner. So if you ignore the relevance bit, no matter how much you argue on the reliance on the CI 99 for expeditious trial, you'll be missing a key point. Because even at the High Court, and I'll make reference to CI 47, which is where they are heavily reliant upon, the rules are very clear. And if I may even read Order 22, Rule 1, Paragraph 1, Paragraph 6 says, and I quote, that a proposed interrogatory which does not relate to a matter mentioned in Paragraph A. Now, in Paragraph A, the rule had already stated that the question you are going to ask must be relevant to the issue between you, the applicant, and the other party. So this rule says that a proposed interrogatory which does not relate to a matter mentioned in Paragraph A of Sub-Rule 1 shall be disallowed. So even the CI 47, which they are heavily reliant upon, gives the court discretion to assess whether the interrogatories that a party is asking is relevant to the issue or not. Now, in this case, the Supreme Court has made the assessment that as far as we are concerned, reading through the 12 questions that you have posed, we don't find it to be relevant to the issue or the petition that you have brought before the court. So we are disallowing it. So it is clearly within the right of the court to do so. Then again, they also make an argument that in the 2012 election petition, the court had allowed the petitioners in that case, i.e., current President Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So to them, so far as in that case, interrogatories were allowed, it must be allowed this time. And for me, anybody who takes that position as a lawyer, I find that very difficult to accept, because we all know that when it comes to motions, they are addressed on case-by-case basis. The fact that in 2012, somebody applied for and was granted based on the circumstances of that case, you can't come to court in 2021 or 2020 to insist that because somebody was granted in 2012, you must also be granted when we are talking about the power of the court to exercise its discretion. So if the court assessed the case then and granted it, it doesn't mean that every interrogatory that any person applies to the court must be granted. So I think that is really the point, and it's important that the former flag bearer of NDC is told that some of these things, it goes to feed into the perception. And there are so many steps that they've taken so far.
We'll be going into the other processes that have come up, right, which is, as you're going to suggest, feeding, a certain narrative which is out there. But still in the ruling of the Supreme Court dated the 19th of January 2021, you've mentioned it though, talking about the reference to CI 99, which is the amended Supreme Court rules in respect of the hearing of presidential election petitions. I mean, obviously, the Supreme Court is making reference to the fact that there's a certain timeline they need to be guided by, or they need to be mindful of, which is where the petitioners' lawyers latched on and said that, well, let's not sacrifice justice for expedition. I mean, it brings to the fore a real issue or a real question, which is, yes, the rules may have stipulated a certain timeline, 42 days in this instance, but really and truly, are we saying that no matter what, we have to work within, that, so that we cannot necessarily allow certain processes?
You see, it's important to maybe step back a bit, because we are coming from somewhere, and as we grow or we go forward, we take decisions, we make rules to make our lives better. This is actually the second presidential election petition in the history of this country. And we experienced the first one that took us well over 8 months. Yep. The country was virtually at a standstill. The government then told us that there were investors, there were loans they were seeking to contract that were held in abeyance because investors and business folks are wondering what the situation is going to be. Based on which the court, by the dictates of the Constitution, the Rules of Court Committee went in to enact the CI 99. It is interesting to note that this is a CI that was formulated with the active participation of the former Attorney General, who today is a member of the legal team for the former flag bearer of NDC, in the person of Honorable Mrs. Marietta Brew Apia Opon. So there was wisdom in us enacting this law to expedite the process. Now, it's important to state that every reasoning that went into the making of this law took into consideration the rights of parties who come before the court. It's not as if the committee went to sit down and decided that let's just make it 42 days. There was reason in each step. And mind you, the committee is made up of not only judges, but lawyers. One of who today is part of the legal team of the former flag bearer of NDC. So they sat down, they thought about each stage and gave 42 days. Because the question you are bringing to court when it comes to presidential election is clearly stated in Article 64(1). You are coming to question the validity of the election. That the person who has been declared to be president is not the person who should be the president. That is the only reason you must come to court. That is why it will be interesting to see how the court will rule as far as the preliminary legal objection is concerned. Because clearly from all that we are seeing and all that we are hearing and the process that has been filed so far, the question is more about declaration. But there is a difference, because there's a case, the Rojo Metanunu case, which interestingly, Tony Lita was counsel for Rojo and squadron leaders Clenso and one other person. The court made it clear that there's a difference between declaration and validity of an election. So you can question the declaration, but it doesn't affect the validity. But Article 64 is requiring you to come and challenge validity. And the court even went ahead, the Supreme Court went ahead to even say that even in declaring, giving the basis or the breakdown of the number of votes parties got, percentage they even got, is not essential to the validity of the election. So I'm coming back to the point that the committee sat down and came out with these days because based on the experience of the judges and the lawyers who are there, they thought that within 42 days we should be able to do this. So as much as possible, we should avoid applications that don't go to the heart. And that is why even in CI 99, we are debarred from actually amending the grounds upon which you have brought your petition to court. And then the respondent is also debarred from amending the grounds upon which he has provided his answer. So the 42 days has been carefully thought through, and per the practice and the experience of the courts and lawyers who were part of the committee, they thought this is it. And mind you, the date the ruling was given, if you go per the schedule, pre-trial, which we did the last time we were in court, was supposed to have taken place from the 10th day when the petition was filed. The petition was filed on the 30th. We're talking about the 21st day. We are still not done with pre-trial. On the 15th day after you filed your petition, we should be doing hearings. So as we speak, we are well over almost a week or even more. So should we allow the petitioner who has brought the matter to court to virtually hold hostage the process? The country must move on. Ghanaians are waiting. They want to see the outcome. And mind you, the petitioners have told their supporters that they won, and I have evidence to show right from the 8th of December, they have made declarations that they won. They kept saying they won. Persons, including the former flag bearer of the NDC, started speaking on the 8th, as early as 8th of December, which is only a day after that they won. They won both parliamentary, and a new term was introduced for the first time. You know, in 2016, we heard of comfortable lead. In this 2020 election, the new word that we got from the NDC is a working majority in parliament. They told us that they've won parliament, and by that stretch of imagination, they've also won the presidential. As we speak, the majority is controlled by the MPP.
By reason of the independent.
Well, it's still a fact.
Man saying
a matter of public record that the MPP controls the majority side. Then they told us that they have won. And mind you, the Deputy General Secretary of NDC actually gave out some figures. And interestingly, even in their petition, they don't even say how much their flag bearer won. Because it's just basic that if you are saying that the one who won didn't meet the 50% plus one, then you should be the one giving us, okay, so he got this because of these numbers he got. He didn't make 50 plus one. I also got this. But they don't even tell us how much they got one. They don't even tell us how much the one who has been declared to have won even got. But the Deputy General Secretary of NDC, in the person of Peter Boama Otukuno, said that the flag bearer got six.
That was before they filed the formal petition.
Well,
so yes, they may have said things prior to, but now they have filed something before the court, which is for determination.
I'm happy you are saying that, because that is clearly at variance with all the things they have said. But it's important.
But that's still.
For
but
two
how
reasons.
does that affect the petition as filed?
It's important for two reasons. The fact that you are not in court, or you've not filed a thing in court, doesn't mean that reference can't be made, because you've made those statements and there's evidence. If you said a thing outside the court, that for instance, this land, I don't own it, and there's evidence to it, and you go to court and say that this land, you own it, are you saying as a lawyer, you have this evidence in your hand, you tell the court that this guy is on record to have said he doesn't own the land? Clearly no, because truth is truth, whether you're in court or you are not in court. But again, I think the whole strategy or the objective isn't really to seek to ventilate certain legal rights. That is my opinion. I think it is just to perpetuate a certain political agenda. And I've had the course to be posted on my Facebook wall. Now, what is taking place in court, in my opinion, from the petitioner side, they are doing 85% politics and 15%
But
law.
are you being fair to them, really?
Yes.
Because this is a process they filed, they believe in it, and they, as far as they're concerned, have reasons to file, for instance, an application for leave to serve interrogatories. And so why would we say, or why would you say that it's 85%, playing to, if you like, the gallery, and 15% really what is happening in court. Do you think that is fair on the part? Because the Constitution grants them that right to bring a petition to court.
I agree with you, but I'm speaking to evidence. The evidence both in court and then outside court. These are people who've told you they've won. They kept saying they've won. They said the election has been rigged. They kept saying they've won. They go to court and say, oh no, we've not won. We are only saying the one who won didn't win. And so we should go for runoff between them and the EC. That was an error, clearly.
And they got the amendment.
Exactly, they got the amendment.
Sought, and it's been corrected.
So as we speak now, we are moving based on the amended petition before the court. Now, those two positions cannot be the same. You can't reconcile. I've won and no, I haven't won. The one who won hasn't won. These are two clear positions.
Right, very well.
And I'm saying that the supporters of the NDC must know that their souls and their hearts is being toyed with. That is my opinion.
Right.
Because if they indeed won and they are seeking to challenge the validity of the elections, they should be telling the court. They're not telling the court that. They're only saying the declaration that was done was not consistent and blah, blah, blah. But those are not the genuine issues.
Right. Very well. I mean, let's move on to look at the roadmap that was given by the court in terms of the issues set down for determination and all of that. Now, this also happened on the 20th. After the interrogatories, after they had, yes. So they filed the application for review on the 20th, following the dismissal of the application for leave to serve interrogatories. And then on Monday, sought or prayed the court to stay proceedings pending the hearing of that review. But the court did not allow that, because as far as the court is concerned, there's nothing stopping them from proceeding. Then they filed subsequently the stay of proceedings, application for stay of proceedings pending the determination of the review application. And that is also pending. So how does that affect the roadmap as the Chief Justice put out, on behalf of the Supreme Court, where parties were to file, petitioner, for instance, and his witnesses, if any, were to file witness statements with exhibits, if any, by noon of Thursday, the 21st of January, 2021, and that is 2 days ago. That's when they should have done. Do you know if that has been filed? I don't. Given the fact that they filed an application for stay of proceedings, I would be interested to know whether this order has been complied with. But really and truly, all the orders in respect of filings would have to be done by the 25th of January 2021, which is this coming Monday.
Yes.
And so, question is, with this application for stay of proceedings pending, how do we see this roadmap playing out?
Well, I must express a fear on behalf of the petitioners, even though they haven't solicited for me to express that emotion towards them, that when the court gives you an order, you obey it. If you have reservations, there's a way to go about it. As we speak, the subsisting order is a roadmap outlined by the court. The court had told them the day after they should file their witness statement. And this even became a heated matter, which for me is a surprise. Because as far back as the 30th of December 2020, last year, when they filed their petition, they had indicated in their petition, as required by CI 99, that they're going to call 5 witnesses. Now, they are saying that because their quest for fishing expedition was not granted, they are not able to proceed. That
wasn't their quest. It wasn't a quest for fishing expedition. They were seeking leave to serve interrogatories. And so if you say it was a fishing expedition, that's your opinion, but let's state the fact as it is. They filed for leave to serve interrogatories.
Right.
Not that they were on a fishing expedition.
Right. The reasons given by the court, I'm using the fishing expedition in my own words, but the reasons why courts do not grant interrogatories is when you see that the applicant is trying to use that as a means of soliciting for information that it ought to have, or that it doesn't have, but it shouldn't even have. So that is my opinion. I'm saying that I think the attempt they made, because for instance, I can give you an example. The issue about whether NCA facilitated the work of the EC at all was clearly a matter that when I was in court and I was like, NCA, what has NCA got to do with the petition you brought to court? Because nowhere in your petition has any issue of transmission been made or any interference in the results that have been collected at the police station, transferred to the coalition center, to the region and the national. Have you even raised any issue about it? So where is NCA matter coming in? So to my opinion, and that was a position that was held, or that was also taken by counsel for second respondent, that it was clearly a fishing expedition because there was nowhere we mentioned that, but you are bringing it in for the first time. So I think that coming back to the timelines again, it's important for the NDC side to recognize that we are working within a time that has been casted in law. We must do this expeditiously. If the court has given you an order, you follow the order. I know maybe the court may find itself in a dilemma because it's a public interest matter. The stakes are really high. So they may decide maybe let's waive, because if the court doesn't waive it, then what it means is that the petitioners may be thrown out completely.
Well,
because
we'll wait to see how that goes.
No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, this is just my opinion. And that's why I express that. This is a fear. It's a fear because the court has given an order. File the next day, witness statement. You haven't filed. Others have filed, but there was also filed.
That brings me to the question. Yes, the respondents were to file their submissions on the preliminary legal objection by noon of Friday, the 22nd of January. That's yesterday. Yes. Do you know if that has been filed?
I've seen the witness statement of both, in fact, the EC and the second
witness statement. But what about the submissions on their preliminary legal objection? Because they raised that.
Yes, I have seen that too for EC. I must say, I am not sure.
Because compliance goes both ways.
Yeah, I agree.
If one side fails to comply, the other side also fails. Then I mean,
But you see, to the extent that you even have the EC filing, and the argument the EC is raising is basically the same that I've even done here, because the question that they're asking the court to address isn't a question of validity; it's a question of declaration. And does declaration, faulty declaration, error-ridden declaration, warrant the invocation of the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court? So at this point in time, I am not aware, but I know that even in the witness statement that has been filed by the second respondent, that is the legal attorney of the second respondent, because it's not the second respondent himself who is doing it, it's the legal attorney who is in the person of our effective victory chairman, Honorable Peter Menu. He also makes the same argument that this petition shouldn't even come to the court at all because it's about declaration, not the validity of the elections.
Right. Now let me ask this question. The preliminary legal objection, I mean, typically when a preliminary legal objection is raised, that would be heard because it usually borders on the competence of either the application or the petition or whatever it is, that originating motion which, starts the suit or the petition. And so it doesn't even allow the court to go into the merit of the case or the petition. Now, in this case, according to the roadmap, the ruling on the preliminary legal objection will be incorporated into the judgment. So ultimately, that which the respondents are seeking, which is, if you like, a truncation of the, let's not even waste time, that will not be achieved. Because at the end of the day, before the court makes a judgment, it would have to go into the merits of it. And so, question is, what is the relevance of the preliminary legal objection that has been filed? Because it's seeking a certain objective.
Right, I know. In fact, having spent quite some time visiting the Supreme Court on a number of occasions for different cases, at times I don't even have a case, I just go to sit there. The court asserts or reasserts its authority that it's a policy-making court. And being a policy-making court means that they may not necessarily always look at the black letter of the law, because the law or justice situates in a society. And sometimes there are values that must be considered. You weigh and balance. Then you decide what will be in the best interest of the country within the power that has been given to the Supreme Court. And being a policy-making decision, I've been to court where a matter which has to do with the supervisory jurisdiction of the court, the court has bent its back to give directives to lower courts that ought not to come even under the jurisdiction of, under the supervisory jurisdiction of the court. But like I said, this is a policy-making, and the only court that is allowed by the Constitution to give policy the directions. So the point is this: imagine that the court says, okay, because it's criminal legal objection, by practice, that ought to be the first matter we handle. So we deal with it and realize, does it meet the threshold of Article 64.1? The court says, oh no, I don't think so, because you're here talking about declaration. Article 64.1 says validity. You're not challenging validity, you're challenging declaration that was made. So based on that, you are out. Imagine the uproar. So in my mind, that's my opinion. I'm not in the mind of...
So essentially, you're saying that the public sentiments, that whole, that stake in the whole matter is not lost on the court.
Exactly, because the court operates within the society. And you can't pretend to be all legalistic and you come and apply without looking at the consequences of your action. Because you may give the ruling, but what happens after?
It's an interesting point you raised there, because then it would raise the issue, if we're in this instance, we're not being sticklers to the rules, then this 42 days thing and the issues raised by the petitioner should perhaps be considered then.
No, you see, we haven't actually gone to the interrogatories they're actually asking. For instance, AB, are you saying if you are asked today, that is it the first time we're having a regional coalition? You cannot answer. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. You are asking us today in Supreme Court that is this the first time we're having regional coalition of presidential results? Who participated in election who doesn't know that this is the first time? You need the EC to say yes and no to this question. That what was the practice in the past? I want you to confirm for me. What was the practice in the past? Then what is the practice now? When this is contained in paragraph 5 of the response of the first respondent, the EC clearly stated the 4 stage: police station, coalition, region, national. And they told you in their response at page 10 that these are the steps we took. We appointed police station officers, returning officers at the constituency level. We had returning officers at the regional level. Then all the results came through them and they came up to us at the national level. It's contained in their response. How does this lead to miscarriage of justice? If you don't answer that this is the first time that we are having regional coalition of presidential results, you are telling me it leads to miscarriage of justice. When this is a matter of public record, the court doesn't even need anybody to answer. And some of the questions, in my opinion, are questions you can actually ask, and which is one of the grounds upon which interrogatories can actually be disallowed. Because during oral evidence, the EC chair is the one who signed the witness statement, which means she's going to be in the box. You can ask her this question. If you ask her there, whatever it is you want to achieve, you can still achieve. If you have a watertight case, you believe in your case, it is easier for you to come to the court and tell us what you have, the evidence you have. For instance, let me even come again to this process they filed, notice for inspection of documents, possibly getting copies. The Evidence Act is very clear. That should be section 168.
That has also been dismissed, or
no. This is just
this
they filed, and it's one of the reasons why they want the process stalled, because for them they want to have copies of the documents that the EC has. Now, all the parties in the election, all the presidential candidates had agents. Those who didn't have, they chose maybe not to have, but everybody had the opportunity to bring agents. And from the record, the NDC presidential candidate or former presidential candidate told us that they had agents, 2 agents, across all the 38,111 constituencies we have in the country. So each person was given a copy. And the copy they gave was a duplicate copy. How do you come today and want to see the original one? When the Evidence Act, which governs evidence in this country, at section 168, tells you that duplicate copies can be treated as original. So if you have the duplicate copy, and you haven't accepted anywhere that you had denied one, you have copies, you want to see the original one to inspect. All these are ways of stalling the process. And like I told you earlier, pre-trial, which we did the last time, should have been done on the 10th day. Pre-trial should have been done on the 10th day. And as at the day we were doing, they gave the ruling, the Supreme Court gave the ruling. It was only the first day. So we are way behind time. So the tendency or the likelihood that we even go beyond it is even high. But we cannot allow for such processes being filed here and there purposely just to delay the process, because that is what I think.
That is your opinion.
That's my opinion.
That is purposely intended to delay, but also they as petitioners have, the right as well to file that, obviously for the court to determine. Let me remind you that we, reached out to the NDC and we were expecting to have in the studio with us Mr. Sami Jemfi, the National Communications Officer of the party, but it's 8 o'clock and he still hasn't arrived, and so that is why you don't see representation from the NDC. We tried to have them here, and indeed they confirmed their participation. But as of 8 a.m. this morning, we still don't have them in studio or joining us in. It would have been, I would have loved to have him here so that we can, have his perspectives on the issues as they played out in court this week, but we don't have that. We're hoping that he joins us subsequently as we go along with the program. Definitely.
I would have really wished that he was here, because in September last year, he had actually placed his intention to marry on day winning the elections in September on the Limit FM. I listened to him. So I was going to ask him how far with the plan.
I'm sure that you can find that out later, seriously, if it's just about confirming whether or not he's going to with that or not.
With a victory marriage.
But that's, that obviously can be dealt with. But the court set down 5 issues for determination, and let's just go through that for purposes of informing, listeners and viewers as well. So the first issue is whether or not the petition discloses any cause of action. The second is whether or not, based on the data contained in the declaration of the first respondent and the second respondent as president-elect, no candidate obtained more than 50% of the valid votes cast as required by Article 63(3) of the Constitution 1992. The third issue is whether or not the second respondent still met the Article 63(3) Constitution threshold by the exclusion or inclusion of the Techiman South constituency presidential election results. The fourth issue is whether or not the declaration of the first respondent dated 9th December 2020 of the presidential election conducted on the 7th of December 2020 was in violation of Article 63(3) of the 1992 Constitution. And lastly, 5, whether or not the alleged vote padding and other errors complained of by the petitioner affected the outcome of the presidential election results of 2020. So these are the 5 issues set down for determination. I have seen reports in the, on the internet and other places that the petitioner side took issue with how the court came, by, the timelines as well and these issues. Any thoughts on that?
Well, you see, the first time they had opportunity on the 19th to inform the court as to the issues that they will want to, they want the court to address, they failed to. And the court gave them the next day for them to file their issues. And they filed virtually very late in the day, but the court still went on recess purposely to see the issues that they filed. Now, the reason these things are filed is that the court wants to know what are the main issues that we should be devoting our time to. So if you bring a petition,
and the parties are given the opportunity to put out their issues as they see it.
Now, based on everything, because you bring your petition, there's a response. After reading it all, as lawyers, we are trained to see what's the cracks of the issue. It's not every matter that you follow. Some are symptoms, but some are causes. So the reason you are in court is go to the heart of it. So the court says, okay, based on their experience also, because it is a tripartite discussion, if you want, the court, the parties, the two parties. So it goes and says, look, based on everything that we've seen so far, what is the core of the matter? The fact that you have a petitioner, you brought an issue doesn't mean that the issue will be taken. Sometimes the issue can be taken, the issue of the other parties can also be. So eventually the wording may change. But the meat of the issue is about the validity. And they are questioning, they've said in their release that for them, the Article 63 was not met because Article 63 requires that the person who should be declared president must have obtained 50% plus one. In their case, they are saying that they don't think the second respondent, i.e. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, obtained the 50% plus one. So there must be a rerun between the former flag bearer of NDC and then him. So if that is the issue, then the question is whether the declaration that has been done meets. So if you look at, I think the second issue meets that. So
that's
if
the
anybody,
third issue, yeah.
Yes, if anybody says he has issues with the issues that the court has put down or set down for trial, I'll be surprised because that must be the only reason why you're in court.
Sure, by way of education, obviously this whole process again is education. So when we talk about issues, basically the matters, if you like, analogically, so maybe the knots in the rope that the courts would have to undo to set the rope free. So in this case, what are those matters or those questions that, if resolved, will ultimately help with the determination of the dispute between or amongst the parties? And that's why it's critical to set issues as borne out from the parties' pleadings. And the pleadings here are the respective cases or positions filed by the parties. So the petitioner files a petition. The respondents, first respondent, second respondent, will also come and file their answer, stating their view in response to the petition. And so out of those things, those processes filed, then you put the parties would have to now see the issues that would help with the court's determination, or the issues for which the courts would have to determine, which would bring an effectual determination to the matter. Right. And so if you go around looking at certain issues which won't necessarily help bring an effectual resolution of the matter, then you haven't done yourself as a party any good, and of course you wouldn't have helped the courts, because as parties, we go to court and with the help of lawyers, we all help the process to come to justice or administer justice. Your thoughts on the relevance of the issues?
Well, I think you have said it all. I mean, it is what it is. I think the 5 issues that the Supreme Court has set down actually addresses the main issues. The one on whether they even have a course of action. I've tried this morning to advance that. I don't believe, because the threshold that has been provided for in the Constitution by Article 64(1), I really do not think, based on also on a ruling or a judgment that has been delivered by the same court regarding the effects of declaration, whether it's valid or not, and then the validity of the election itself. I do not believe that they have a course of action. So it will be interesting to see how things pan out. But let me also repeat my fear that if they're not careful and the court decides they want to stick to the rules, the NDC may find itself wanting, and possibly the next adjourned date, if you go to court, the court may strike out, because per the rules, the court has the power to do so.
Well, we'll see about that. But like you said, this goes beyond what happens in court there and every other thing. But obviously, we are keeping our eyes closely glued to the 2020 petition and developments in the Supreme Court, and we will be talking about that as and when matters come up. But let me say a big thank you to you. we've had in the studio Mr. Faisal Ibrahim Cisse.
CNC.
CNC. Yes, he's a lawyer and also a member of the NPP National Communications team. You know, share his perspectives on the matters. I indicated earlier that we were expecting the National Communications Officer of the NDC in the person of Mr. Sami Jemfi, but he didn't show up, and so that's why we had a conversation with Mr. Ibrahim Cisse alone. We do hope that the next time we invite them and they confirm, they would actually show up. This is where we draw the curtains on the first segment of the show, where we looked at the 2020 election petition. We'll take a break. When we come back, the all-important issue of COVID-19. Why do we see a surge in confirmed cases or positive cases in the country? What are we doing about that? This is the key point. Stay with us. We will be right back.
Vision Center is here with all your eye care solutions. Yes, Third Eye Care is at it again. Are your lenses becoming foggy because of wearing face masks or sitting in air-conditioned spaces? Are your eyes getting sore and tired after using the computer for prolonged periods? Are you struggling with lights from oncoming cars and other vehicles when driving at night? Worry no more. Third Eye Care and Vision Center has all the right solutions for you. We have anti-fog and blue filtering lenses that solves it all. Third Eye Care and Vision Center also stocks all types of lenses, designer frames, sunglasses, and employs very well-trained, qualified, and licensed optometrists to provide all your eye care needs. Locate us at Airport Residential Area, close to the Association International School, opposite Mirage Residence, or Northridge, on the premises of Sunny FM, and close to the Kanda Overhead Bridge. Call us on 054-328-7008 or 026-646-2080. Third Eye Care and Vision Center, your total eye care solution.
The assurance that absolutely none can compare. The peace of mind that nothing could ever be better. The joy that comes with being free to be who you are. And the knowledge that where we're from can guide us to where we're going. Key, a tradition of smiles, a future that's bright. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by...
As a new mom, there are moments of pride, joy, and doubt. Yes, doubt. Has he slept enough? Does she have everything she needs? Does she have all the nutrition she deserves? Each bowl of Cerelac contains goodness that helps your child blossom. That's one less thing to worry about. Cerelac, it's all good, Mom. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
This Saturday on National Genius Channel.
Yeah, I feel like screaming myself. I'm so excited and thrilled. Love it so much. My name is Kafri Day. Welcome to the final semi-final Jack and Jill School in Roman Ridge, Greater Accra region. From Kade in the Eastern region, Newman Preparatory School. And their school is called K. Billy Clare, East Legon, Greater Accra region. This quiz is brought to you in association with
Best Western Premier Hotel, Bayport Savings and Loans, Bright Schools, Hisons, Institute of ICT Professional Ghana, Prospectus Ghana Limited,
MJ Seafoods, Anasco Skills and Digicom Engineering Limited, Extra Class.
Supported by
The National Juniors Challenge shows every Saturday at 2 p.m. on TV3. The Ladies Circle.
Your Saturday evenings are never the same when four intelligent ladies are on your screens talking about everything that has to do with women as we get into honest conversations, giveaways, and fun games.
Hi guys, this is Shatamishi.
Sissina So, Zinel Zu. I'm Juliet Ibrahim. This is the Ladies Circle.
Join the host of the Ladies Circle.
Keep watching the Ladies Circle. The Ladies Circle.
Keep watching the Ladies Circle. This and every Saturday, live on TV3.
Let's get interactive on social media. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hashtag The Ladies Circle.
The Ladies Circle, every Saturday, 6 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by
Yaz Sanitary Pad. Another season of TV3 Talented Kids is here. Season 11 was fun. Season 12 will be super exciting. Are you ready? If you're 14 years or younger and can sing, dance, play an instrument, draw, act, DJ, or have any TV-friendly talent, then it's time to audition for Season 12 of Talented Kids. Audition dates and information are as follows. 21st to 22nd January, Kumasi inside Akuma FL. 24th to 25th January, Accra inside TV3 at Desawe Kanda. 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. Got the talent? Come flaunt it for the chance to be part of Season 12 of Talented Kids. Also, if you know any child star you think should be on the show, send a video of him or her displaying his or her talent to us via WhatsApp on 054-244-8297 and we will put them on. Talented Kids, free to play. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to The Key Points right here on TV3, also on 3FM 92.7 and online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So next, we're going to be looking at COVID-19 and the havoc it's continuing to wreak on the world. And indeed, in Ghana, we've seen a surge in the numbers, confirmed cases. Deaths have also increased. And the president, in his last address to the nation on measures being taken against COVID-19, put out some very, very worrying and statistics. I'll just run through a few. That active cases have moved from 900 as of that time last week to 1,924. And on the average, daily we're recording 200 new cases. Treatment centers have gone from 0 patients to full capacity. Severe cases have also moved from 18 as of the time he was given the address to, as of the week before the time he was given the address, to 120 at the time he was given the address last Sunday. And also 2 weeks ago, that makes it 3 weeks now, there was no critical case. And at the time he was given the address last Sunday, there were 33 critical cases in treatment facilities. And another startling information here is that those severely ill are relatively youthful persons without underlying health issues. And that apparently is surprising to health experts. Also, deaths had increased from 338 to 352. And as of yesterday, Friday, January 22nd, the number had shot up to 361. So indeed, there's a lot of concern around the issue. Now, to have this conversation with me, currently in the studio with me, we have Professor Gordon Awandare. He is with the West African Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens. Good morning, Prof. It's good to have you in the studio. And on Zoom, we have Professor Fred Binka. He is a professor of clinical epidemiology with the School of Public Health at the University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho. Good morning, Prof.
Good morning, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too, and thank you for joining us. We also will be joined subsequently by Dr. Asari Bekwe. He is the Director of Public Health with the Ghana Health Service, and also we'll have a phone-in conversation with Emeritus Professor Andrews Seth Aite. He's a former Provost College of Health Sciences at the University of Ghana. So now we'll kick off the conversation with Professor Gordon Awandare and Professor Fred Binka. Let me start with you, Professor Awandare, in studio here. The numbers have shot up.
Yeah.
Quite disturbing. I mean, you hear quite disturbing issues out there in respect of COVID-19 and the havoc it's wreaking. But sorry, Prof, before you come in, let's take a story on COVID-19, the measures being put in place, and particularly this story is focusing on law enforcement agents who arrested some persons who were seen flagrantly violating the laws on wearing masks and other COVID-19 protocols. Let's take a look at this.
Hours since President Akufo-Addo announced the security agencies are going to strictly enforce the wearing of masks among the citizenry as Ghana's COVID cases continue to surge. The Accra Region Police on Tuesday carried out an operation to arrest 97 individuals who were flouting the mask-wearing protocol in parts of the business districts, Tudu, CMB, Farisco, and the like. But a video we have seen shows the individuals crammed up in one building, defying the exact protocols they were supposed to be enforcing. In the video, the 97 persons comprising 60 males and 37 females are seen standing closely with little to no physical spacing. A number of them were seen holding their masks as they looked on, worried during the filming. Public Relations Officer of the Accra Region Police, DSP Efia Tenge, says some of the suspects had the masks but simply failed to keep them on.
What we observed was that when these people come into town, it is either they have the face mask, yet they will not put it on. So usually you see them putting the face mask in their bags or in their pockets. So they were all rounded up this morning.
The police says it will continue to enforce the protocols so long as Ghanaians fail to adhere to them.
Some were made to buy the face mask or take the face masks that were in their pockets or in their bags and wear them. So they have all been brought to the Regional Police Command as we take a decision on them.
But what happens when the handling of those arrested defies the whole idea of the exercise, as we see in this video? Where is the physical distancing?
And then the video.
Right, so that was some footage there showing a number of persons who had been arrested for flouting the COVID-19 preventive protocols. But the question that is asked at the tail end of that story is, where is the social distancing in there as they are all crammed in there? So obviously, Prof, this is a difficult situation we find ourselves in.
Yes.
What do you make of the recent developments? What is accounting for the surge that we are seeing?
Yes, so I think that we are now paying for about a month or so of a combination of activities. So I'll go all the way back to the political campaign season, from late November up to early December, when the campaign season was in top flight, and there were so many rallies and basically an increase in social interaction. Then after that, we had a number of protests and other gatherings. Then we had the Christmas season, where, as many of you saw, there was total disregard for the protocols. People celebrated their Christmas as if there was nothing going on. There were parties, and nightclubs that were supposed to be closed were actually running. Bars were packed, and there was a lot going on. People had weddings and all kinds of social activities. Add on top of that, we had a lot of travel. During the Christmas season, usually you have a lot of people coming to Ghana for Christmas. So you have people coming from the US, the UK, either directly or through other countries. But you had a very high increase in, the influx of passengers from some of the most, some of the countries with the highest number of cases of the pandemic. So if you put all those together, you see that there's a big amplification of the number of cases, because all these feed on each other and basically just escalate the situation. And if you add on that, now we know that the new strains are also in circulation and in several African countries. So that means that all this travel also brings with it, the introduction of new strains. And we know that these new strains behave quite differently, as we've seen in other countries. And I think all these together are contributing to the current situation. And it's actually a very serious situation. If you look at the numbers, if you look at the pressure on the testing facilities, pressure on the hospitals, it means that we are really in a bad place right now.
Right, really in a bad place. Professor Binka, can you hear me? If you could kindly, unmute your microphone. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great, yes. So, Professor Gordon has, mentioned a number of things that could have accounted for the surge in numbers we are witnessing now. And, the President also in his last address, the 22nd address to the nation, did indicate that genomic sequencing have confirmed that passengers arriving at airports have confirmed positive with the new variant of COVID-19. And so clearly raising the issue about that particular variant. What are you hearing of that new variant and its, impact? How, we do know that yes, it is more transmissible, but do we know of its, whether or not it's more deadly? And is that why we're seeing an increase in the number of deaths in Ghana in current times or in recent times?
Yeah, so thank you very much, and thank you to Gordon. Gordon is the chief on the variants. He sequences his variants, and he should be able to tell us all the variants. But truly, the reports are very clear that this variant is more transmissible, and that at the moment we are not sure whether it is also more deadly. So far, that has not been attributed to that. It's only recently that we have the shocking news that it may not be completely amenable to the vaccines that are on the market. But this is part of what we started with. I mean, nothing has changed. The more people you have getting infected, a certain proportion, which we say is about 10%, will get admitted. And out of that 10%, another 5% will get severely ill. So if this one is increasing the numbers, the situation hasn't changed. It's completely how we've started, and the virus is behaving as we expect it to behave. Mutations are important, and especially this kind of virus, which is an RNA virus, mutates very frequently, very, very frequently. When it comes across the vaccine virus, it will mutate. If it comes across wild viruses, it will mutate. So the important news we have today is that it is here now. The number of cases are going to go up, and we need to be ready to deal with the consequences of the numbers. So if you have 1,000 cases now, 10% of that, 100 of them will be severely ill and will get into hospital. Where is our oxygen supply? Where are our ICR beds? Can we contain and deal with this issue? The more we are not able to contain them, the more the number of deaths will also increase. How many more people are being put into the hospitals to help to manage these people? When you're on ICU, you are virtually one-on-one on your nurse, if you permit me to say so, because you have to have constant observation and you are completely incapacitated and you need help. So all these things have to be done. Otherwise, the numbers are truly what we are finding. More cases, more severe cases, more deaths.
Right. Now, the President indicated in his address that if things don't, in other words, if we don't put things in check, to as it were, contain the situation, then our healthcare system will completely be overwhelmed. And in that case, what are we to do as, the urgent steps to take? What would be the immediate things to be done? Yes, we talk about wearing nose masks and all of that, but in a situation where the virus is, you know, widely, if you like, spreading through the communities, what can be done ASAP to deal with the situation?
So thank you very much. First of all, I think we are really in a situation that I have never had before in the last 40 years. For a situation in the United States of America, California specifically, giving instructions to the ambulance team that when they come to your house and they look at you and you look like you will not survive, they should not bring you to the hospital. They should leave you at home. I mean, it looks a very lame statement, but it's loaded.
Sure.
So the issue is that people will get sick, they will get onto these beds, there will be need for more beds, there will be need for more supplies, there will be need for more doctors, the more nurses, and there will be a point when it is all full, like President said, and then what do you do next? You have to determine who should leave and get onto the bed or who should go home. So that is a real problem.
Wow.
Secondly, what we need to do, fortunately, no one has reported so far that the measures we have today cannot control this disease and that they cannot cut down on the cases. So I go back to my famous lesson, we must wear masks like we are wearing in the studio there. And we should not just say it, and we should not just give instructions that apply to the whole country. We have to work with the community to wear the mask. This is our only vaccine available to Ghana today. There's none. Then the day the vaccine will arrive is about a couple of months behind. Meanwhile, we are getting ill. So just this announcement and the police enforcing it is a bad approach. Look, I went to Ho last week. If the police went to Ho today to try and arrest those who are not wearing masks, they will arrest the whole town. Everybody in Ho will be arrested. In fact, when you are wearing a mask in Ho, you look like you have come from outer space. You know, they have not heard about this. So let's not give these blanket statements.
Sure.
You know, the people need the mask, to wear the mask if we have to stop this. And my suggestion is that let's provide the masks for free. Let's provide the mask for free. And then those who are recalcitrant, we do something about it. But this, the stick first before the carrot, it's a problem. We are unable to provide the mask for the children we are asked to go back to school because we are making one rule. No, in some schools, parents can provide a mask. In other schools, parents cannot. Why don't we measure our directives to fit the situations that we have? I don't like this one directive that goes from Accra to Bolgatanga to Wa and so on. No, let's empower them to look at what the local situation is, but keep their eyes on the goal. The goal is that everybody must wear a mask.
Right, very well. Thanks, Prof. Yes, Professor Gordon. Professor Binka is talking about, you know, the need to provide masks for people to wear. Do you think it's a case of people not having the mask? Perhaps that may be an issue, but you saw the video that we played. People had it at their chin.
Yeah.
Some would literally have it hanging on one ear. So you may provide it, but to get them to actually wear it and wear it the right way is also an issue. Your thoughts on that? And of course, you are the kingpin of variants, so we would want to hear some more on the variants that we are seeing here.
Yeah, thank you. In terms of the mask, I think that what I always advocate for is for us to take individual responsibility. If you are in a place and your friends are not wearing masks, you need to insist that they should wear the mask. Like Prof. Binka said, it's going to be impossible to for the police to enforce this for us, because first of all, they can't be everywhere at you know, all the time, and also if you start arresting all these people, you're not going to find space to keep them. You end up crowding them in one place, which would defeat the whole purpose. So I think that at the individual level, we have to hold people accountable. If you are in a place and people are not wearing masks, tell them to wear the mask, otherwise you leave. You know, so That is very important. The other thing I've always advocated for is that there are some social events that are non-essential, and I've said that let's ban them again for some time. Let's ban weddings and funerals for some time. If you look at many of the outbreaks, you know, if you find a cluster of people who all got infected, they went to a wedding together, they went to a funeral, or they went to a party. These are super spreader events.
Sure.
And if we rely on people's own goodwill or responsibility to stop these events, we know they're not going to do it. People would still go ahead with their weddings, they'll go ahead with their funerals, and people would go as well. And you go to these social events, initially everybody's wearing a mask, but before you realize everybody's drinking, having a drink, chatting, then mask is now underneath the chin, then it ends up in the pocket. Okay? So if it's a social event, the adherence is very low.
Right.
So we need to put a stop to this. We're in a very bad situation, and we need to realize that. And if people would not be responsible enough to postpone their weddings and funerals, we need to compel them to do that. Okay? And then everybody take responsibility for yourself and your neighbors or your colleagues. Yeah. In terms of the variants.
Please hold on to that.
Yeah.
We have Professor Emeritus Andrew Seth Aite on the line. So let me quickly cross over to the line and then we'll come back to you for the variants. Professor Emeritus Andrew Seth Aite is a former provost at the College of Health Sciences, University of Ghana. He has made a statement. He has indeed recommended the use of hydrogen peroxide as an immediate protection against the coronavirus. We will be speaking to him about this statement or recommendation he's making. Professor Seth Aite, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great. Good morning and thanks for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Right. So let's get straight to it. Your recommendation to use hydrogen peroxide for protection against the coronavirus. Could you kindly elaborate on that some more?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, in the fight against COVID or SARS-CoV-2 infection, there are a number of interventions. The first intervention is preventing the virus from entering the nasal cavity or the mouth. And that is why we use the face mask and then social distancing, hand washing with soap and running water, etc. That's why we do all that. And I would like to even emphasize that in the first intervention, the hand sanitizer use, WHO recommends that it contains alcohol and peroxide. So even in that, peroxide is important. The second intervention is when the virus has entered the nasal cavity and the oral cavity. And perhaps you all know about the incubation period for SARS, and that is about 14 days. What it means is that from the time it enters these cavities to the time it causes infection is about 14 days. But of these 14 days, the first 5 are critical because that is the period when the virus resides in the nasal cavity and the oral cavity before it penetrates the lining, or what we call the mucous membrane or the epithelium, before it penetrates using the cells, receptors, and cell signals to enter the deeper parts where it then escapes detection. When you take advantage of this period where the viruses are residing in the nasal cavity and the oral cavity, you can actually eliminate them. The research has shown, and it's not our research, but research of others, has shown that hydrogen peroxide inactivates bacteria, but also more recently, it inactivates coronaviruses and all other respiratory viruses, including influenza virus, the virus that causes the common cold or flu. And what it does is that the hydrogen peroxide, which is an unstable chemical, breaks down into water and oxygen molecules. And those free oxygen molecules are called reactive oxygen species. And they act like small little bullets, and they hit the membrane wall of the virus. You know, the virus has RNA particles covered in lipid membrane. So they hit that wall and break it. Once they do that, the virus is now unable to attach to the surface mucosa to start its process of penetrating. And this is how hydrogen peroxide acts. And therefore, we say that if this is how it has been shown to act on viruses, then it should also be possible to deal with the viruses that enter the nasal cavity and oral cavity using hydrogen peroxide. And the research also shows that 3% of hydrogen peroxide, and even as low as 1%, can be quite effective. So we settled on 1% for the oral cavity, and then 0.5% for the nasal cavity. And what is done is simply to do an observational study, i.e., if you use hydrogen peroxide, are you protected from COVID? Even before you do any test. And what we have found, in fact, the team members started using it, our families and friends, those who offered to try it. And the results, have been very convincing, especially the one we cited in a district hospital. But just yesterday, one of the respondents to on social media said that he was in a company of friends during the election and then the holiday period, and all his friends tested positive for COVID. He was the only one who tested negative, and he has been using hydrogen peroxide. I wondered why he didn't share it with his friends. Maybe he did, but like many of us, we don't believe when simple things are shared. We want very complex things to use to protect ourselves. But this is the story there. Many more are indicating, that they are being protected. And I cited another example of a family, a close family friend who had COVID. But I believe he had heard about peroxide before, but he probably ignored it. But when he had COVID, the wife got in touch with us, and we asked a simple question: how long have you been in touch with the husband? The husband works in a factory outside Accra, and comes home during the weekend. So she said 5 days, and I said, wow, we have an opportunity here. Start using hydrogen peroxide immediately. And I even increased the concentration, and I said, do it twice a day, all of you, including her mother. And so
okay,
they did.
No, Prof,
And
let me just come in here. First of all, I'm not sure if I heard you, but are you saying this has been scientifically proven? Or these are...
Oh, yes. If you read the article that we cited, if we read the article, it's scientifically proven that hydrogen peroxide inactivates coronaviruses and influenza virus. It is there. And that's why I said that WHO, even in the hand sanitizer, includes hydrogen peroxide. And the American Dental Association recommends hydrogen peroxide use in dental practice. Because they all know...
Yes, sure. I think for that, those kinds of uses we know in dental, or oral care and all of that. But for this, given, I think that the concern or the questions that have come up has to do with the fact that this virus, as we understand it, is of a certain nature and operates in a certain way. And so questions as to how hydrogen peroxide can be used to deal with it is an issue. Let us understand, how is it to be used? You talk about, you said 1%.
Okay, how is it to be used? Okay. So, first of all, I'm saying that the science is solid. The science behind it is used against the virus is solid. Now, let me come to to the hydrogen peroxide itself and volume and preparation. What you do is the hydrogen peroxide which is sold in a pharmacy is about 6%. I think in most stores it's 6%. Maybe in some stores it may be 3%. If it is 6%, what you do is you take a cupful. You can use a cup of the bottle, 1 cupful of hydrogen peroxide, and add 5 cups of ordinary water, and that converts it to 1%. And you take a tablespoonful in the mouth, mouthwash and gargle for 1 minute, and then you spit it out. And the hydrogen peroxide, oxygen radicals that are released will deal with the viruses. If one is not sure that it's fully protected, you can go and do a test for
Very well. Now, Prof, one
for
other thing
the
to
virus.
let us understand, is this a curative measure or a preventive one? So that...
It is not. Very good question. It is not for curing COVID, and we clearly, have to underline that it's not for curing COVID. It is for preventing it, and that is where the emphasis should be. But we have said that if someone has COVID, because the virus enters to cause COVID and then leaves the body to infect others, we can also intervene. Even when people have COVID, we can intervene in recommending hydrogen peroxide mouthwash, so that mouthwash and gargle. So if they do that, the viruses they shed will also be inactive, so they cannot infect their contact. And the most important contacts we have in mind are the health workers. Yes. So when you use the hydrogen peroxide, even if you have a COVID, then you are protecting your family, you are protecting your friends, but more importantly, you are protecting the health workers who are looking after you.
Very well. I would like to say thank you to you, Reverend Emeritus Professor Andrew Seth Ayite. He's a former provost with the College of Health Sciences at the University of Ghana. Right, so let me turn to, yes, Professor Gordon, you were making a submission earlier and you were moving on to the variants, but this bit about the hydrogen peroxide, I would want to hear your perspective on that. And then, Prof, I will be coming to you as well, Professor Binka, on your thoughts on the hydrogen peroxide recommendation. Sure.
All right. So I think it's a very interesting idea. And, it may well make a difference. But, I think there are a number of things we need to do first or to verify, which is, the first thing is this has to be done, this has to be tested in a properly designed scientific study where you have, people taking it and others taking something else and doing the same thing and having similar levels of exposure, maybe health workers. And then you can draw, and you need what you call a good sample size. You need a certain number of people. So if you do this and you only observe it amongst your friends, it may be true, but it may just be a coincidence too. Exactly, because if the number of people you've tested it in is not big enough, it could be what you are seeing may just be by chance. So it's very important that you do it in a large number of people, properly controlled, which means that you make sure that they follow what you ask them to do, and then the control group will do something else, and then you can compare. So it's very important to do those type of studies before we can start advocating. The second thing is hydrogen peroxide, as has been made, it's not meant for regular use. If you use it for oral care and all this, it's for you to use as and when needed. But if you want to use it as a preventive for COVID during a pandemic, that means you have to do this every day.
On a daily basis.
And we don't know what are the long-term effects of that, of putting a chemical through your nostrils every day and washing your mouth with it every day for, a long time. The last one, which is the one I'm most worried about, is that when he has described it nicely, the risk is that people would go and buy hydrogen peroxide today and try to make their own concoctions. And you would realize that he's talking about specific percentages of the hydrogen peroxide. In a population that we have a large number of people who are not very well informed or not very well educated, there's a risk that people would abuse this and not do it properly. And then you run the risk of several things. So I would exercise caution that this may well be true and useful, but let's follow the process and do it properly before we let people go wild on hydrogen peroxide. So that would be my caution.
And let's not abandon the already existing protocols, the wearing of masks, the washing of hands with soap and the running water, social distancing, and the others. Professor Binka, let's hear you on this recommendation by Professor Emeritus Seth Aite, the use of hydrogen peroxide as a preventive measure against COVID-19.
Okay, so thank you very much, and let me congratulate Professor Seth Aite and his colleagues for trying to find local solutions to a problem in a pandemic. Yes, Dr. Awundare has stated a couple of things, but we should also remember that in this case, we are looking at the repurposed use of a particular drug or intervention that is being in existence. So the safety and those things, the bar is a little bit lower than when you are starting de novo, because then you have to do all the animal studies and so on. I think they have got to the stage of the proof of concept. The concept and the scientific issues behind it look acceptable. In fact, I have tried it myself personally, and I have asked friends to try it. It's not. It's now that he has to go to the next stage to try and show what is the efficacy of this in real life situation, or the effectiveness. And this is where he needs support. They need support from government. They need support from the ministry, and there's no reason why they couldn't start this among health workers who are in situations where they are meeting sick people, and the chances of being infected is very high, and they could try this. So these are the areas where the Food and Drugs Authority and others should come in and help us to see whether in such a situation this would be an added tool. Remember, it is not a magic bullet. It is an added tool in our quest to try and deal with this disease. So that's where I'm coming from. I congratulate them for what they're doing. And if you've gone out, you are wearing the mask, you've gone in a place where you think is highly likely that you could get infected, please try it.
It looks like the toolkit is getting interesting. We are now adding to inhalation and the wearing of masks and other things. We're now adding the use of hydrogen peroxide as well. I have, in my public health life, I've always been in an area where we don't have perfect tools. Like malaria doesn't have a perfect tool. So we use all the tools that we have. So you have to wash your hands, you have to wear the mask, you have to distance, and now we can use hydrogen peroxide and many more that you find around. Once there's a proof of concept in an epidemic, it's a fishing expedition, it's safety, which is the most important thing. And I think Dr. Awundare, Professor Awundare did allude to that. If it's possible to work with those who are making the hydrogen peroxide, can they make a hydrogen peroxide with the right concentration rather than we diluting it and so on and so forth? These are issues that can be dealt with. But I think they have proved the concept that this is feasible. And peroxide definitely will kill the virus. And that's where Professor Awundare and co come in to make sure that we can demonstrate that in live situations, if this is applied, it will affect the virus. Very well. Thanks for that. Yes, Professor Awundare, so back to the variants. And the president indicated that, yes, testing done on some persons arriving at, the airports indicates that, yes, there's that, variant, that new variant. Let us know what that new variant is about, what it looks like, how it operates, and all those matters that are relevant.
Yeah, so just to give you some background. So what happened was that when the president made his speech about looking for the variant, which is something that we as scientists have been advocating for behind the scenes. So it's, credit to the president and his advisors that they bought into this idea that we should be doing more sequencing to monitor not only this variant, but into the future, other variants that would come. It's inevitable that the virus will continue to evolve. So we need to be on top of things and make sure that we are monitoring what variants are coming in, which ones we have locally, and whether those new variants are impacting the transmission rates and also the severity of the disease, as you mentioned. Now, when we did the sequencing, we found several people with the UK variant who were coming in, and then we found one person with the South African variant. What was disturbing is that many of the people who had the variant came from other African countries, especially some of our neighboring countries. And what that tells you is that the variant is already...
They came from the neighboring African countries, but had the UK variant of the virus or the SA variant.
Correct.
Okay.
So, which means that the variant is probably already in our neighboring countries.
Sure.
We are now sequencing samples from people who got infected locally, who didn't travel. And so in the next few days, we'll determine whether we already have it spreading within our population, but it's likely that it is, because if we took a random sample of travelers on a particular day and nearly half of them have the variant, it means that it's all over the place already. Now, Prof has already alluded to the fact that clearly it's more transmissible. That means it's more efficient in moving from one person to another. What is still not clear is whether it affects the disease severity. Now, in some of the studies, most of the studies said that it does not, but a few of them suggest that it does. What is important is that we need to do our own studies here, because as you would remember, what we call the original variant, when we had only that one in circulation, there was the general observation that in Africa we responded better to it than in Europe and the US, because we had a much higher percentage of people being asymptomatic, like Prof mentioned. About 80 to 90% of the people who got infected with the original variant in Africa were asymptomatic.
Yep.
Okay? Now, from the stories we're hearing from the doctors, it seems like there's a higher number of, or a higher percentage of people who, when they get infected this time, they get sick. So that means that the percentage of symptomatic people is going up, or the percentage of asymptomatic is going down. Now, again, this is just based on they observing what they see. For example, seeing young people that normally, if they got it, they will not be very severely sick. They're seeing young people who are severely sick and some dying without pre-existing conditions. So that may suggest that this new variant interacts with Africans differently, or people who live in Africa differently. So that's why we need to do our own studies and find out how we interact with this virus. Is it different from how we interacted with the original strain? You see. So then we'll be able to tell whether the increased hospitalization is just as a result of increased cases, like Prof said, or is it that there's something complicating it, that this particular variant makes more people show symptoms than the original one. So all these are things that we are now investigating.
Sure.
And the government has been supportive of these type of investigations. So we hope that they continue to support the scientists so that we unravel these things. And then we continue to do it regularly.
Sure.
If you want to do surveillance properly.
To keep tabs on.
You have to keep tabs on it.
Right.
Now, you understand.
It's interesting. So globally, how many variants do we have?
Well, there are many.
Many variants.
The only thing is that a variant becomes of interest or of concern when it has an impact on the transmissibility or the disease severity. That's why the UK one and the South African one have become very interesting. There's also a Brazilian one which is popping up.
Sure.
So there are many variants. When we did sequencing in Ghana, even before the new variant, we found, a whole range of variants, about 5 or 6 different variants.
Right.
But as long as they are behaving similarly or the same as the original, we don't worry. We only get worried when new variants behave significantly differently from the original strain. And that's what we're seeing with the UK strain and the South African strain. That's why we have to watch them very carefully.
Right. And like Professor Binka indicated earlier, there's science indicating that these variants are not amenable to the vaccine that have been developed so far, which raises a very keen concern.
Again, that the data is a little bit mixed. Some studies show that it's effective. In fact, Pfizer themselves said that they've checked, and antibodies that their vaccine induces is able to neutralize the new strain. However, there have also been some reports where people who were infected with the original strain, when they were challenged with the new strain, or when they encountered the new strain, they got reinfected, which meant that the immunity they generated from the original strain did not protect them from the new strain. So again, these are things that context are important. Yes, context is important because this virus behaves differently in different people based on your previous exposure to other pathogens, your health status, and all those things. So you have to always investigate and define the context, properly before you can generalize.
Very well. And now, Professor Binka, how does this development, impact, attempts to try to get back to normal life with for instance, with the reopening of schools and, these whole social gatherings and all of that? How does this, affect that?
Okay, so thank you very much. We go back to the same principles. There are, 3 principles in the control of and prevention of a disease. We eliminate the reservoir, we protect people who are not infected, and then we treat those who are infected. What is happening now is that it is more important now to protect those who are not yet infected. And that's what other countries are doing now, those who have the means to do so. It's a race against making sure that by the time the new viruses arrive, they are meeting people who have some protection. They are not meeting naive people who are walking around, and so we will see the effects of those vaccines. Yes, it might not protect as high as the original virus was intended, but protection is always better. And I'm sure if we had a good system, which we had wanted to put in place in Ghana, those who have had this infection already and have recovered, nobody's monitoring them in a meaningful way. I'm sure they get reinfected, but they don't get symptomatic and they don't end up dying. These are all basic principles of virology. Once you have met it before, you develop some antibodies, your body is primed, and your body can meet it. So we have to get more people primed so that when the virus arrives, its effect on the population will be lower. That's one way of looking at it. Secondly, we come back to the fact that we need to prevent people from getting infected. And the only tool we have today is the barrier, is the mask. So we don't do it half-half. And this barrier effect has to be the coverage. That is important. That we all are putting in the little we can. I was reading recently in an article, somebody was suggesting that if Americans could stop and wear a mask for 2 weeks, everybody, 100%, almost 100% coverage, this thing will disappear. So the mask is still in Ghana today, is only our vaccine and our way to go forward. Let's be more creative. Let's allow the regions, let's allow the institutions to get involved and to be creative in the coverage. The doctors and the scientists know that it works, but they might not be the best people to tell us how we can make sure that everybody takes it. we can only look at legislation, and legislation should be the last resort. Let's find creative ways. Let's debate this, and let's find out what is the worrying people and how we can make it widely used in society. That, for me, today, as we speak, is our only course to move forward while we await the arrival of the vaccine.
Very well. Thanks for that, Prof. At this point, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll look at other aspects of this conversation, talking about contact tracing and treatment centers or treatment facilities, the conditions there, and how we can enhance all that we're doing to ensure that we win this fight against COVID-19. This is a key point. Stick with us. We will be right back.
Season of TV3 Talented Kids is here. Season 11 was fun. Season 12 will be super exciting. Are you ready? If you're 14 years or younger and can sing, dance, play an instrument, draw, act, DJ, or have any TV-friendly talent, then it's time to audition for Season 12 of Talented Kids. Audition dates and information are as follows: 21st to 22nd January, Kumasi inside Akuma FL. 24th to 25th January, Accra inside TV3 at Desawe Kanda, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. each day. Got the talent? Come flaunt it for the chance to be part of Season 12 of Talented Kids. Also, if you know any child star you think should be on the show, send a video of him or her displaying his or her talent to us via WhatsApp on 054-244-8297 and we will put them on. Talented Kids, free to play. TV3, first in news, best in entertainment. This Sunday on Date Rush.
She said I shouldn't tell you that the competition is tight, so she is scared to lose the battle.
I wish I could get a chair to sit, cause like I can't stand.
Won't mean Gina.
I don't want the ladies to be rushing. So the way he dance mean to me. I can't, yeah. The guy like cute. I'm actually looking forward to have fun.
Wait. Your accent last week wasn't like this one.
The all-new season of Date Rush shows this Sunday at 8 p.m. on TV3. Don't miss it. The all-new season of Date Rush is proudly brought to you by Rush Energy Drink, Carnival Liqueur, Ernest Ointment, Heaven Insecticide Spray and Coil, and Napa Foods, Everpure Purified Drinking Water, Note Cosmetics, Duffy's Ohima Feminine Mixture, Papa's Pizza.
Welcome back. You're still watching and listening to The Key Points. We're live on TV3, live also on 3FM 92.7 and online at 3news.com, also on our Facebook page, TV3 Ghana. So we're currently having a conversation about COVID-19, particularly looking at the surge in confirmed cases as well as deaths, and it's quite a worrying situation. We have in studio Professor Gordon Awandare. He is with the West Africa Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens, and on Zoom we have Professor Fred Binka. He is a professor of clinical epidemiology with the School of Public Health, University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ho. So yes, let me come to you, Professor Awandare, and still again looking at the fact that we are trying to, in the midst of all this, we're trying to get things back to, well, quote unquote, normal. Schools have reopened. A lot of parents have raised issues about the situation and the fact that, yes, children going back to school poses a certain challenge and all of that. We do know that, of course, what to do is to wash your hands, provide Veronica buckets and all of that, and then mask wearing. But really there are challenges in there as to enforcement. What would be your recommendation?
Well, I've said before that I think reopening the schools at this time, it's something that was already planned before we were hit with this new wave. But I think it's, we're going ahead with it, and it's a gamble we're taking. We would have to
Is it a gamble worth taking?
Well, that, I think, again, those are things that at the individual level people need to decide whether, or at each institution needs to decide whether the gamble is worth taking to reopen, and what measures you put in place to minimize the the risk. So I think each situation is different. You have to evaluate your particular situation and assess whether you have adequate measures in place that you can enforce, because the key thing is enforcement. Can you enforce them in an adequate manner to ensure that they are effective? I have advocated that at the very least, when schools are reopened, we should be doing random testing. Ideally, we should be testing all the children, at regular intervals, but we cannot afford that, of course. But at the minimum, we can do random testing. If every week you can take a random sample of students from each school and just test them. That way, when there's an outbreak building, you would detect it quickly before it becomes a huge problem in a particular school. So I think at minimum we should be doing that, and this can be done at the regional level, at the district level, where we now have more testing facilities. So we should be able to organize some random testing for children in the schools. But again, it goes back to what parents do as well, because invariably, if there's an outbreak at a school, first it probably came from a parent who went to a social gathering and got infected and brought it home and gave it to their children. The children take it to school, give it to other children, they take it home and give it to their parents and grandparents, and that's where we have a disaster.
Yep.
So it's the responsibility at the individual level is huge. If we as parents and teachers, we've decided that we're going to take out, reopen schools and take children to school, we have to be extra responsible because of the huge risk that we put our families and others at. So these are things that, unless we become more responsible at the individual level, it's very difficult for enforcement to take place. So these are some of the variables in this school reopening situation.
Right.
But,
now we talk about enforcement by, enforcement of the protocols and other things that are relevant for, ensuring that we win this fight against COVID-19. But earlier on, we saw the video where the people had been arrested and sent to obviously what was, a police station, and they were crammed up. So essentially, even in trying to enforce the law, we are breaking the law.
Yes. Well, I was talking about the school situation. The schools have to have mechanisms for enforcing the protocols, especially when the students are in, common areas. You have to strictly enforce the wearing of masks in common areas. If you are in your room, there's nothing we can do about that. In your room, between you and your roommates, you need to be able to have some kind of arrangement about how you protect each other. But the common areas, a library, a classroom, a computer room, it has to be 100% compliance, and we have to have structures for that. So to avoid a very nasty outbreak in any of the schools. So that's how we can enforce this. And at the individual level, again, students have to be responsible. Students have to insist on their colleagues wearing masks.
Sure.
You should report your colleague if they repeatedly ignore the the rules to wear the mask. And school authorities should take action for people who are repeat offenders, because you don't want to risk the lives of many people because one student or a few students are very reluctant to do it.
Right.
It will take time, but if you keep at it, eventually a vast majority would comply.
Right, very well. We intend to, I mean, we're hopeful that things might change. But Professor Binka, the President, again, in his 22nd address to the nation, indicated that, you know, reluctant as the government may be to go back to a situation where we may have to lock down certain areas or get into a partial lockdown of sorts, we probably would have to get to that point if the number of cases continue to increase at the current rate. And he says that it's better to be safe than sorry. At the rate we are currently operating, i.e. the numbers we are recording, do you think that should happen anytime soon, as in a partial lockdown or a lockdown of sorts? 200, on the average, 200 cases per day. Do you think that puts us in that situation where we should be enforcing such measures?
Yeah, so thank you very much. Yeah, that was a bit frightful part of the statement, that we may get back to the lockdown. And I think everybody would want to prevent that situation. The good news so far is that this is not showing up in the same way in all parts of the country. So we should, first of all, be very careful trying to issue one blanket approach to how it's done throughout the 16 regions of the country. We may have to apply different rules to different situations. And like in many countries, we have to grade the level of risk 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, CDC now grades Ghana as level 4, the highest, and advises people not to visit Ghana because the infection rate is quite high. So that's one. Okay. Secondly, I personally feel that the numbers you are seeing are an underestimate. We have more than we need. We should be honest with ourselves. How many tests are we able to do? Okay, so if we don't test, unfortunately, in this disease, we don't have an algorithm. It is either you are positive or you are negative. So without a test, we can't know where we are. And the ratings other countries are giving to Ghana tells me that they all believe that our numbers are an underestimate of what the situation is. So with that, we need to improve on surveillance. We need to improve on those who are, when people get sick, we need to cordon around them and then try to find out who they have transmitted these things to. So the government has to put in resources to do that. For me, as an epidemiologist, since this whole thing started, and Professor Wundara is aware that I've not been happy with the testing system. Epidemiologists don't need RT-PCR. We are happy with the RT-PCR, but we need serology tests. These are rapid tests that allow us to be able to track where the virus is going. And what do serology tests do? They check whether you have come into contact with the virus. Simple. Have you come to contact with the virus? And usually, if you have come into contact with the virus within 3 weeks, the tests tend to be positive. And they tend to be cheap. In fact, in Ghana, KNUST announced the development of one of those tests. Yes, it may not have been perfect, but it was far better than nothing, even if it was 20% sensitive. So tools like that should be able to allow us to localize what the problem is and put appropriate measures. It is just not acceptable, like we did in the first case, to lock down the country and not have the ability to test people. So you've locked me down, but you have not come to check whether I have the virus or not. And I think that was one of the biggest problems we had in the first round. When we locked down Accra and Kumasi, we should have traced where the virus is going and who is having the virus so that we can remove them from the system. So going back just to do that is a problem. The economy, the economic situations of most people, they will fight back. In fact, there will be more resistance this time around than the first time. So let's get our act together. Lockdown without the availability of testing, screening, and removing those who are positive from the system into quarantine so that we can observe them over time is not useful at all.
Right.
So I don't think we have gotten there yet.
Okay.
We should narrow. In fact, if we get to that stage, we have to redo it by sub-sectors, maybe a sub-district, but I don't see us going to close down Accra.
Right.
I mean, nobody's going to mind you anyway.
Not
People are not going to accept it.
Sure.
So we need more information. We need to approach this more scientifically, give the possibility of testing. Nobody will complain when you say 5 children in this school have tested positive and we are closing down the school. But you can't just close down the school tomorrow after 10 months and say, oh, the cases are going up. I think this is the issue. The epidemiologists want testing.
Right. Now, Prof, 2 things in there in your submissions that I'm taking away here, and I'd want some further, elaboration. You talked about the fact that the numbers, the daily averages we're talking about, the president mentioned 200 on the average positive cases being recorded daily. And you think that is an underestimation. I think, the president in his address also talked about the fact that laboratories should comply with the protocols put in place regarding the common platform so that they would be informing, that centralized system to be able to keep track on the numbers that are coming in. And indeed, he went on to talk about the fact that sanctions would be applied to laboratories that fail to comply with this directive. Do you think there's a problem with that common platform which may perhaps affect the numbers as we have put out? And then in terms of the decision as to lockdown or not, you talk about the distribution and the fact that, yes, it's not the same across, everywhere. So for instance, the last time I checked the Ghana Health Service website on the COVID-19 updates, clearly Greater Accra is leading the pack, with Ashanti coming in second. I can't see the figures right now, but I believe last night when I checked, Accra was doing like Kumasi was doing a third of what Accra is doing. And so would you say that there's the need to control travel between Accra and Kumasi and other parts so that we don't get, cases increasing all over the country?
Yeah. So thank you very much. Let me take the later part first, because I think that is of the biggest worry to everybody about the lockdown. I want us to look at this very carefully. What you are calling Accra is a very amorphous Accra. About 2 to 3 million people come to Accra every day, and they actually don't live in what we call Accra. What I'm suggesting is that let's narrow this down. Let's not call it Accra. In fact, if you close down Accra, what we call Accra today, nobody's going to. You need to bring the army and the police. They're not going to mind you because they're going to look for their daily meals. They know what it means. So we can narrow down the areas. Is it Ayawaso area? Is it Kaswa, which is now part of Accra in a way? Where are the problems that we have? That is why the testing is important. We have to demonstrate to these people that, look, the number of cases in your area has gone up, and it's in your own interest that we work together to bring it down. And that's why we are restricting the movement, because this is what we said from the beginning. The virus is not moving. It's people who are moving the virus from one person to the next. So if your area, we can demonstrate that your area, the disease level is too much, then we can put in those restrictions to make sure that we can contain it. But what I'm saying is that if we just make a blanket, oh, you can't go to Kumasi, you can't go to Accra, that is not going to be helpful. it is just another statement that will not be complied with. You know, where we've gotten to now, we need the public support. We need the public to go along with us in whatever we say. And we need to let them understand why we are doing that. They will not accept it anymore. That's how public health issues arise. So let's deal with it locality by locality. Let's collect the information. Let's bring it down so that we can move it forward. It's the same I was saying about the schools. Look, there are many schools in Accra where if we were talking to the parent-teacher associations in those schools, they would take care of all this. They will pay for it. They will give the PPEs. They will do whatever it takes for their children to go to school and be safe. There are other schools where they can't even have chairs and tables. So you can't send the same instructions to another place like that. Let's find those who can help. But in all public health endeavors, you have to be transparent. You have to be truthful to the public because they have to work with you to get there. Now, let's go to the testing.
Right.
And
the common
data.
platform, yes.
Yes, there is a problem with the data being provided in one, at the national level. It's not only with private providers. There's also a problem with the teaching hospitals and the Ghana Health Service. There's not it's not linked completely. The teaching hospitals are autonomous from the Ghana Health Service, and they are about the same level. But in public health, what happens is that what are we giving to these people to demand the data? We are interested in the data, so we must give them something. Why are we not giving them some reagents? If you give them reagents and say, okay, when you do this 1,000 tests, you send information back to us. There must be a give and take. Why should I be in private business and spend all my time sending you information of what I have done? We have to work this out because the information is important to direct the control measures that are needed. Right. Where is the problem? How can we deal with the problem? The problem in Aburi and those areas might be different from the problem down here. And if you want them well, they will stop coming to Accra to come and take the virus and send it back to Aburi. In fact, some towns did that. They were not accepting people. If you remember, during the close down, they were not accepting people coming back because the disease was in the city and they were bringing it back. So let's localize it. If we do, we can make this one rule fits all. It's no more. We have gone past that.
Very well.
We have to tailor measure our interventions based on the information that we have. That is what is meant by the science is driving the control.
Sure. Thank you very much. And indeed, let me correct that. My reference to Accra and Kumasi really were to be Greater Accra and Ashanti region, because the Ghana Health Service, records the figures per region, not here. So indeed, it's a Greater Accra and Ashanti region I was making reference to. But yes, Professor Wandare, I would want you to also touch on the common platform the President talked about, because obviously, like Professor Benka said, in public health issues, data is critical. And so if you're not getting the relevant data, that becomes an issue. What is the situation around the common platform that has been set up for the private and public labs to, feed into regarding the numbers they report at their respective outlets?
Yeah. So as Prof said, I think the key is how do you incentivize the private laboratories to provide the information in a timely manner. I think the majority of them provide the information. It's just not timely. So, they are reporting it, there's a lag time in the way the data is reported. So you don't get real time,
information or data.
Information on the situation. So that's really the key. I think that has also been complicated by the fact that we have a surge. So we have a lot more cases. There's a lot more pressure on all these facilities. So, getting the information out there has become a problem. So the Ghana Health Service has to devise a way of incentivizing. So carrots and sticks, you have to incentivize them to give the data in a timely manner, but also have a threat of some sanctions if they don't. And probably we need to make it simple for them in terms of having a very efficient network where they can just enter the information in real time, as and when the tests are being done, so that they don't have to wait and do it at the end of the day and then they have to key in 500, individual cases. If it's done in real time, if the whole system is networked, such that anytime somebody is being tested, it's entered in real time and the result is picked up in real time and all that is collated. So I think our IT people should be able to figure this out in a way that makes it easy for the data to be gathered in real time, and that's the key, is the real time. But the bigger picture is what Prof mentioned, is that the testing is mainly elective testing. People have to show up to be tested, or they have to go to the hospital with symptoms for them to be recommended for testing. So no matter what we do, we are still grossly underestimating the burden. You and I know people who have COVID and they're at home and quarantining themselves, and the health system is not picking up some of these people and their relatives and others who had COVID and just had mild symptoms and they didn't show up. So we have to, increase the testing to some level of community testing if we want to get a real picture of what is going on.
Right.
And this is difficult because now we have a surge and the testing facilities are already overwhelmed. So how are you going to get enough capacity to do community testing?
Right.
Yeah.
And Prof earlier on mentioned, the KCCR, I believe, devices that came out sometime last year.
Yeah.
Where are we on that? What happened? Because those obviously would be useful to the whole process.
Yeah. So the issue about rapid tests. So this is another issue that I think now we have to revisit, because I think what has been happening is that the FDA have put a very high standard or a bar that these tests have to meet. And so it has been basically impossible for many of the tests to meet that threshold. That's why we still don't have any licensed antibody test or antigen test. But the science is getting better, so more accurate tests are being made. So, better tests are being made. So we may be at a point where the FDA has to give a little, maybe reduce the threshold a little bit, to allow some of these tests to come.
Wouldn't that be risky?
Yes, so it's risky in the sense that these licenses have to be clearly defined what they can be used for. So, for example, you can have an antigen test which will be used only for symptomatic people. So it's not going to be used for travelers, for example. So travelers, most of them are asymptomatic, even those who have it. They just show up to get tested in order to get a certificate to travel. So you cannot rely on this rapid antigen test for that, because it can miss a whole lot of them. But in a hospital setting where people show up and they are symptomatic, and the health workers don't know what to do with them. They don't know whether it's COVID or not. So they don't want to touch them. They are waiting for the test results in order to decide what to do with them. In those instances, if you have a rapid antigen test, for example, it will be able to tell you that this person is COVID positive, because they will be shedding enough virus that an antigen test can pick it up. You understand? When people are in such a symptomatic stage, that means they're shedding virus as well. And so the antigen test, even if the sensitivity is not 100%, it can still pick up the majority of people
because
who are...
At that point where you're symptomatic, you're shedding more virus, so you can pick it is okay.
Exactly. So you can use that to just quickly identify people who are clear cases of COVID, so you can take care of them, rather than saying, let's wait for PCR, which now is at least 2 days because of the surge in cases. It takes about 2 days to get a PCR result from...
And you're as good as the day you are tested, because the next minute you walk out of the lab, you could be...
Exactly.
You could be infected, and so the report comes in, you're negative, but really maybe you're even...
Yeah, so I've heard that they are considering licensing one of the rapid antigen tests to be used in the hospital setting only. So that would be great.
Good.
But we have to try to, get a few of these available for, rapid detection of clear cases.
Sure, right. Now, Prof. Binka, let's come back to the KCCR rapid test devices you mentioned, and which Prof has touched on, at least to give an update as to why we seem not to be having that out there. the bit about the need to comply with standards set by, the regulatory agency. What's your take on that? Obviously, there's a need to keep to standards, but also, as he has described, in certain instances, we could put these to use and it would, give the needed results. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so this is an issue that we need to look at very clearly, and we must look at it holistically. In fact, this COVID, one of the things COVID has taught all of us is that we have to every country has to be able to produce some things that are internal. And that KNUST test was a great signal that we could do a test. Yes, it was not perfect. It's just like if we were starting to manufacture cars here, we're not going to manufacture the Mercedes-Benz or the top-range vehicles. We'll start from somewhere. So they had this test. The test had to be evaluated. There were problems with the level of the sensitivity and specificity of the test and so on. But it was the problem we have in Ghana is that we set standards, and then we are resolute about those standards because that's the only way to make sure that nobody passes through the hole. But regulatory authorities must look at risk against benefits. That is the role of a regulatory authority. There's no tool that is perfect. No tool that is perfect. So you have to look at risk and benefit. And if you are in Ghana, a test that can clear 40% is 40% sensitive, I think you should start with that. You don't throw it away when against nothing. I get my point. Mm-hmm. So there are the risks and benefits. Yes, 60% of the people will not find them, but we found 40. And based on our resources, we can use that to track the 40. Because those tests were going to cost about $1 or at most $2, as to compare to the PCR test that is costing over $100. I get my point. $100 and $2. Yes, it might not give you the perfect situation, but it is better than nothing. And we have used nothing for 12 months. And we could have been ahead of this virus. Today, you are asking me what should be done to get Accra and Kumasi. I cannot tell you, nobody can tell us the seropositivity within Accra and Kumasi. These are only the RTP tests that they are doing. Professor Wundare is there. They did the serology test in part of Accra. They found about 25% people had already got in contact with the virus. You see? So we can't just close the door and try to be the perfection sometimes becomes a problem. We must go back, work with KNUST. They can improve that thing from wherever they started from, based on the sera and everything that is available, and we can go into 50% and hope that in another decade we can get to 100%. But we can't just say bring the perfect onto the scene in a pandemic. It doesn't work that way. We were using thermometer guns. If you got to the Accra Mall and they used the thermometer gun and your temperature was up, they will tell you cannot enter. Is that more sensitive than the sero test? No. But it's something that we could use to separate. It's a screening thing. You are separating one group from the other, and it helps everybody to do their work. In fact, for us as epidemiologists, this has been the big minus. So you find that when you come back to answer some of the questions, we don't want to answer the questions because we haven't collected the required scientific information to make and let science lead where we are going. We are guessing all the time, and that is not good enough. But Professor Wundare is there. Let him talk about the test. He's the expert on the test.
He did, I believe, yes. But he talked about the one that he found out that some 25% of people in Ghana. Let us hear about that.
Well, we did this in August and September thereabouts. So it's not current. We have to do another round of testing. But at the time, what we did was that we used the antibody test, like he's talking about, the rapid antibody test. And we screened people at public places, lorry parks, markets, the shopping malls. And then we also did among health workers and some of the frontline, COVID response teams. And we found different levels of exposure in the different groups. But it was quite interesting that in the markets and lorry stations, like he said, we found 25 to 27% of them had already been exposed.
Wow.
You understand, at the time. And if you contrast that, you go to the malls and, more high-income areas, we found 9-10% exposed. So you could see a clear, difference in the risk or the burden of the disease tilted towards the lower income
That's
communities.
interesting. It started out initially, the perception was that this is if like an elite kind of disease.
Yeah.
So your research findings are quite interesting.
Yes, I think you're right. When it started, it was amongst the middle and upper class, which is, the group where there's a lot of travel. Because this was initially, an imported disease. So, yes, so the first few wave of cases were from people who had traveled and brought it back, and then their relatives and their friends. But once it enters the community, because those communities are more crowded, less compliant, less economically empowered to protect themselves. They use public transport, they go into the market and mingle.
Yes,
so then it spreads faster. So then they overtook the
the middle class. So
exactly.
So. Very well. That's a good one. Interesting indeed. I would want us to turn our attention now to the vaccine. And in fact, the Ghana Medical Association issued a press statement, I believe, sometime last week, January 14th. And they talked about that government is making efforts. They actually acknowledged the government's efforts at securing the COVID-19 vaccines for the country, but also urged government to do all it can to fast-track the process to enable Ghanaians get the needed vaccination before the pandemic gets out of hand in that country, and talked about the fact that even before the vaccine arrives, we should start with public education and all that is needed to ensure that there's that buy-in. Because obviously, I believe there's some misperception or misconception out there, about the vaccines and all of that. If you could let us know what that whole process is about.
Yes, so I think the reality is that it's going to be a while before we get vaccines. So I don't think we should kid ourselves into thinking that vaccines are being distributed in the UK and the US, so we are going to be queuing up for vaccines anytime soon. No, we are not. Because these countries pre-ordered the vaccines. That means that when the vaccines were being developed, they said, here's $10 billion. Use it to develop the vaccine. When you get the vaccine, give us vaccines worth $10 billion.
Sure.
So they've pre-ordered, they've put a down payment on it. They helped them develop the vaccine so they can get priority. We didn't have the capacity to do that. I know the Africa CDC is organizing the African countries to take advantage of a program that's called COVAX, which is an initiative from our WHO and other global agencies to try to arrange or negotiate for a package for African countries to be able to get access. But, this is going to take a while to mobilize the resources and actually get the vaccine produced. Right now, producing the vaccine is a huge challenge because the demand is so high. So, like Prof. Binka has been saying, the vaccine we have now is the mask. Let's focus on enforcing the mask and cleaning, washing our hands and social distancing. And let's, sort of not have any hope for vaccine anytime soon. I think the earliest we get is probably in the middle of the year, or more realistically towards the end of the year, that we can get any substantial doses of the vaccine that will make a difference. So let's not kid ourselves into doing that. Then I think the education is very important. I agree with you that other vaccines have not been accepted because there hasn't been sufficient buy-in. So this is the time that the government should engage scientists and professionals such as Prof. Binka, so that we educate the people. We have fora to explain what the vaccine can do and cannot do, what risks are associated with it, and provide the real information about the vaccine. But people would be allowed to make a choice. Okay, you've heard all the information about the vaccine. You still want to take it or you don't want to take it. You balance your risk. Maybe you prefer to stay at home and not take a vaccine and not expose yourself. But other people would opt to take the vaccine with this few side effects that may be that you may experience, but they think that the risk of not getting the vaccine is higher than any side effects that may come with it. So people opt to take it. So the key thing is to let people have the accurate information about each of these different vaccines, what they do and what they do not do, because as you said, social media, there's a lot of misinformation there, and there are people who are vaccine deniers, if you want. There are people who don't believe in vaccines. So whenever there's a vaccine, they go on a huge crusade to discredit the vaccine by providing misleading information to discourage people from taking the vaccine. So we have to be careful about this. So if you see people forwarding information, it's not all correct. A lot of it is propaganda that people just make up. So let's get our information from reliable outlets.
Sources. Very well. Professor Binka, any word or two on the vaccine situation? At least Professor Awandare has, managed expectations somewhat. So we are not necessarily looking.
Yeah, I'll just add I think he has covered
tomorrow.
a lot of it. Let me add a few things to the issue. The critical steps are that I get a bit worried when we have committees set as an answer to whether we are prepared or not. Yes, we must have a committee, but at this point in time, government must make an allocation of a sum of money that is going to use to purchase the vaccines and try to prepay. Everybody is prepaying. There will be it will take a long time for it to be on the shelf for you to take your money and go and buy. You have to pre-order, like Professor Wundari said. We must pre-order. Kenya recently pre-ordered $90 million worth of the vaccine. The South Africans have done the same. And these two countries, I'm mentioning them because they are at a stronger advantage. They took part in the trials. So the companies have a responsibility to make sure that after this research has been done, what happens to the population. So they are on top of the pole when it comes to sending these vaccines. But they have also already made a commitment in money. So we have to get government to make a commitment in money. COVAX is going to provide only 20% of our needs. It's written there in black and white, 20%. And for 20%, we are not starting. I mean, honestly. So we must know whether we are going to 50% or 40%, name it. So that commitment must be there, and we must use our new measures to try and pre-order. We are thankful that our famous guy, President Trump, is left. Yesterday we heard from Fauci that America is going to join the facility, the COVAX facility. So it means more money will come in and more vaccines will be procured for all of us. Number two, preparation for the vaccine. As Professor Wundari said, we haven't started. The social media is awash with all kinds of information telling people not to have the vaccine. In fact, these days I get so tired trying to respond to this. All I say is that, look, I will be at the top of the queue when the vaccine arrives. That's all my statement I make. But we need to educate our people. We need to look at the systems that are required to take us when the vaccine arrives. We are still not yet prepared. There must be a lot of discussion. Every vaccine, every drug has its risks and benefits. We have to put the data down. We have to inform our colleagues and our compatriots that the benefits outweigh the risk, and that they must make it available so that we can go back to our normal lives. I don't think we are doing very well with respect to that. So that is point number two. Point number three is that the type of vaccine we will have here, it depends on what is available but it also depends on the amount of money we have to buy the vaccines. For example, Moderna is about $20. I think the Pfizer is about almost the same ballpark, about 15, but the Oxford one is about $4, and so on. So all these things will come to determine how much it's going to cost. But we have to make sure that we can provide for a certain percentage of our population to be able to be protected.
Very well.
The details of how we provide it is what I think the committee must be working out.
Very well.
Because one thing I want to pass on to them is that you must have private sector participation, because you can make money from private sector participation and then buy more drugs for those, more vaccines for those who cannot afford it, and
Very
so
well.
on. But
Very well.
we have to start now.
Sure.
And we have to have dry runs. We have to get the ministry to make sure that we have ways of documenting who has received the first dose, and so that we can find him to get him the second dose, and so on. There are many things that need to be done,
Ahead of time.
I haven't heard
Sure.
yet that they have been done.
Very
Thank
well.
you.
Sure. On that note, this is where we bring conversations to a close here on the key points. I'd like to say a big, big thank you to our panelists for this part of the show. Professor Gordon Awandare, he's with the West African Center for Cell Biology and Infectious Pathogens. And on Zoom, we had Professor Fred Binka, Professor of Clinical Epidemiology with the University of Health and Allied Sciences. Thank you so much, viewers and listeners, for making a date with us and spending your Saturday morning with us. We do appreciate your time. We'll be back here same time next week. Until then, do stay well and stay safe. Remember, COVID is real, and so protect yourselves. See you next week. Bye-bye.